Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. This is live stream number 1143. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We are certainly not engaged in anything along the lines of rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. No, we're just hanging out, having a good time, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then I'll normally pontificate about a topic related to our hobby. And tonight it is a Cthulhuesday. And I am going to take a dive into a Call of Cthulhu adventure, Edge of Darkness. So, of course, stay tuned for that. That will be after the news. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 10 whole minutes before you can take part in chat. Yet another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you check both those boxes, you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, please chime in. I'll do my very best to respond. First out the gate tonight, we've got Sean O'Donnell. Our good friend, the Madman, is with us. He's one of our chat moderators. Semper Buffo's here, as is Gleeman RX, Dark Autumn Scribe, James Eck, and I think, Jose Fernandez. There you go. I knew I was missing one person who had popped up in chat. So there you have it. Welcome aboard, everybody. And I will take a wild guess that the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is also lurking in the shadows. She happens to be another of our chat moderators. Howdy, gang. Welcome back. Today happens to be the coldest day in the Chicago area for the season. So it's a little bit chilly down here in the Duct Tape Studios. Not terrible. Just a little cool, little chilly. Not enough where we've got condensation or anything, but probably not too far off. So there is that. Zach McKinney is joining us in chat, saying it's great to see me. And I'm also talking about one of their favorite Call of Cthulhu scenarios. Very nice. Very cool. Sarah D is with us tonight. She's chiming in and saying howdy. All right. So, like I said, it's a bit cold down here. But as Gloria Gaynor pointed out, I will survive. Doomed Colonist is also jumping on into chat. Let's get started with our news tonight, because arriving in stores in May from WizKids is the Dungeons and Dragons Icons of the Realms Underdark Expedition, or I should say expeditions, plural. Miniatures, here's what I know. Delve deep into the Underdark with D&D Icons of the Realms Underdark Expeditions. You can get these in booster packs as well as 8-count booster bricks. The Underdark is the deep subterranean realm home to countless creatures like dark mantles, hook horrors, umber hulks, and gelatinous cubes. Collect all 44 pre-painted miniatures in this set of randomly sorted monsters from the Underdark. This set includes a great selection for building a robust collection of Dungeons and Dragons' most popular creatures or preparing for an Underdark-focused campaign. The Underdark Expeditions line is expected to arrive in May. You can order the 8-count booster brick for $159.92, or if you want to pick these up at your local game store as booster bricks, or I should say booster packs, which include 1 large mini and 3 miniature or small minis for an MSRP of $19.99. Gotta say, this is looking kind of interesting. WizKids has gotten better with their pre-paints. They're pretty solid. I could see utilizing these at the game table if the pre-paints look like what we see in these images. It's not always the case. But yeah, I gotta say, they look fairly sharp. And I really wish I had gotten an opportunity to take a peek at some of the WizKids Icons of the Realms releases that they did for the old Monster Manual, for the original Monster Manual. I went and talked to somebody from WizKids at Gen Con. We went over some of these. I took a little bit of B-roll for the various different miniatures. They look pretty cool. And I thought maybe we were finally going to get something cooking with WizKids, because I had even discussed how, WizKids used to be, they would send out review copies of stuff to like 4 outlets, and that was it. I mean, I understand. Publishers can't give out review copies to every single person who asks them for one. Otherwise, they'd never make any money. They'd always be in the red. But still, and it kind of seemed like, we were maybe getting on the right track, and then nothing. It was like, all right, yeah, there you go. That's it. But still, these look kind of cool. And then I think in late summer, early fall, there's another D&D Icons of the Realms that's going to arrive, and it's going to feature sculpts that are based on the new upcoming Monster Manual. So we'll probably talk about that in the not too distant future. Alexandre Lake is popping on in. Says, woo, arrived almost in time. Yeah, you've only missed the first news piece. Not anything too exciting. Well, okay, I'm not trying to insult WizKids by saying it's not exciting. Just saying it's only one news piece. All right. So, moving right along, let's talk about some role-playing game news, because there's a new role-playing game which is currently up for crowdfunding. It's been up for about a week. I've got the scoop on Cats, the Conspiracy from Black Book Editions. What is Cats about? Cats, the Conspiracy is a complete tabletop role-playing game that lets you play as cats. Not common domestic cats, but the feline equivalent of James Bond and Evelyn Salt. The cream of the crop when it comes to furry special agents with whiskers. Awakened cats possessing mighty, incredible powers and psychic abilities. Their ancestors created mankind, and they secretly intervene in the present day to protect the conspiracy, a lie that is several millennia old. The veil successfully cast over the reality perceived by humans in order to make them think cats are only pets. This is a cat's world. Cats, the Conspiracy is all about having fun while paying homage to an all domestic felines past, present, and future. To play, you only need the core rulebook and a few sheets of paper, pencils, and 5 10-sided dice. This project features an innovative game where player characters are psychic cats protecting the greatest secret of all. A dedicated, fast-paced rule set using 10-sided dice. Gorgeous art and graphic design by Maxim Tempe and the Black Book Editions design team. High quality books and products, as well as an amazing value with discounted prices, as well as PDF copies, which are included for free with the physical rewards, as well as exclusive stretch goal gifts. There is a short video. It's only about 30 seconds long. Sadly, 10 seconds of the audio will give me a copyright flag. It's like, what? So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to play this without any audio. Once again, it's all of 30 seconds in length, but you will get a closer look at Cats of the Conspiracy. See what I mean? Very, very quick video. Now, the Kickstarter for Cats, The Conspiracy, is over 500% funded. You can reserve a copy of the core book with stretch goals and the aforementioned PDF for a pledge of approximately $47. Or if you want to just score the PDF alone, you can do so for a pledge of approximately $26 through February 14th. Reason why I'm saying approximately is because this company is out of France. So there is that exchange rate. Expected delivery is actually a pretty quick turnaround, and it is June of this year. Not bad. Not bad. Dark Autumn Scribe says, as a dog lover, they have to give this a hard pass. Actually, as a cat owner, I don't necessarily know if I would be playing this, but it did catch my eye. So I'm like, oh, okay. Doom Colonist says, well, that would explain why their ex's cats always used to roll in at breakfast time looking to be in a state. Well, if the cats were getting outside, yeah, most cats usually come in a state. Moving right along, the Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition starter set is landing in February. Here's the lowdown from Modiphius Entertainment. To boldly go where no one has gone before, the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game takes you to the final frontier. You may travel to the edges of known space, to colonies in need, to the borders of neighboring galactic powers, or into the eye of interstellar phenomena. Explore strange new worlds, encounter fantastical alien life forms, and engage in dramatic adventures in a detailed and immersive galaxy. Play straight out of your inbox. The starter set and the currently available starter set PDF includes almost everything you need to begin your journey into the final frontier, including an epic campaign of 3 linked missions designed to challenge a brave crew of 3 to 7 player characters. The Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition starter set includes a rules booklet, which is a 48-page PDF, providing, or I should say, in the PDF that's out now, in the box set, it'll be a booklet, providing an overview of the 2D20 game system, which is adapted for Star Trek Adventures, for use with the included campaign, which is a 60-page booklet containing the epic 3-part campaign, Infinite Combinations, which guides you through the rules as you play so you can begin exploring the galaxy right away. There are also ship sheets and character sheets for the Constitution class USS Challenger and 7 player characters, with a rules reference sheet for each character, plus 8 more rules reference sheets and momentum tokens, threat tokens, determination tokens, and of course, can't have a 2D20 system without 20-sided dice. Right now, you can pre-order the starter set for $30, or you can grab the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG, which is available right now for $20. Very cool. Very nice. I'm hoping to have an opportunity to get a chance to take a peek at this. I don't know if I will or not. I don't think the contact I had with Modiphius Entertainment is still there. So, I don't know. I would actually consider buying this for my best friend, Elliot. Although, I know he would never run it for me. So he might run it for his family. But probably not me. But yeah, I have kind of bounced it around because the actual physical starter set is supposed to hit stores, I think, if I remember correctly, February 5th. I know it's February. For some strange reason, I want to say it's February 5th. Doom Colonist says they always assumed that the reason why their cats looked bedraggled was just shenanigans with other cats. I will pistol whip the next person that say shenanigans. Said they didn't know about the secret feline cabal operating beneath human society. Sharon Donald says if they ever have the time, they want to drag me into an Cthulhu 2D20 game so I can try the system in depth. I have reviewed some of the books. I have not, I'll be the first to point out, I have not actually taken part in a live game of Cthulhu, but I do understand the system. Sweet. Bradley Thorpe is popping on into chat. Tessie Trekkie is also here. Bradley Thorpe says, hey, Jeff, wanted to say I've ordered 20 more Pathfinder books. Really getting into the game. Hey, you know, if you have an opportunity, reach out to Paizo Inc. and say, hey, yeah, it was Jeff at the Gaming Gang that helped turn you on to that. Doom Colonist says, pistol whipping, eh? Reaches for a mallet. Of course, that was the shenanigans was a reference to a movie. I'm sure someone out there got it. Actually, I figured quite a few people did. In fact, there you go, 245 trioxin. Hey, Farva, what's the name of that restaurant you like with all the goofy shit on the walls and the mozzarella sticks? Shenanigans. All right, moving right along. Right now, you can score big savings on the flabbergasted role-playing game from the Wanderer's Tome by way of Bundle of Holding. And I've got the deets on the deal. What ho! For a limited time, the Wanderer's Tome is offering for a special promotional price the lighthearted 1920s flabbergasted tabletop role-playing game. In episodic scenarios inspired by Jeeves and Wooster, Faulty Towers, and Blackadder, strangely, those three don't seem to go together outside of them being British humor. Quite different, all in all. But okay. You play as an affable aristocrat, an entrepreneurial well-to-do, an idealistic bohemian, or one of the ever-ready and steadfast staff. You and your fellow protagonists join an up-and-coming social club, get involved into secret societies, and cultivate your dignified or scandalous social standing. Fend off dastardly debtors, concoct cantankerous capers, navigate scandalous soirees, prevent misguided marriages, and get up to many marvelous misadventures, all before afternoon tea. Pay just $7.95 for the complete flabbergasted rulebook. Normally carries a retail value of $19.50, along with the free quick start guide. Now, I do want to mention you only have a couple of days left to take advantage of these savings. This was another really super short bundle of holding. They've had a few of those pop up. And I know they used to have their like 48-hour deals that would pop up that were kind of separate. This is, on the standard side of bundle of holding, but it was only a week long. So, want to point out, savings will end January 23rd. So, act now if you want to get a peek at Flabbergasted. So, I would think that just from seeing the artwork, I would take a guess this is probably far more in the Wooster or Jeeves and Wooster, I should say, side of things than, say, Faulty Towers. So I'm just a saying. Bradley Thorbass, hey Jeff, what are your thoughts on dinosaurs in 5e? I've got no issue with that. Would I put dinosaurs in a traditional like high fantasy like area? No, I wouldn't have, say, dinosaurs. I mean, like large lizards like T-Rexes and brontosauruses or whatever the hell they now call those dinosaurs, right? I wouldn't include those. Now, of course, if you were running, say, like Tomb of Annihilation, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, Chult, there you go, right. Sean O'Donnell's pointing out that's where they freely roam in the Forgotten Realms. Yeah, I would say that. That's where I would locate them. Now, that's not to say that I feel that you can't have lizard men in, on the Sword Coast and stuff like that. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Kind of cool. Actually, we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons in a minute. Yes. So, Gleeman RX said next week, Jeff's going to make fun of us for buying random crap bundles. I never make fun of anybody buying games. And it's, when do you ever hear me give people a hard time for anything they buy? Never. I never do. I don't care if you're out there buying like made role-playing games that everybody's going to dress up like the opposite gender and play at around their table. Whatever you guys enjoy doing, it is completely up to you. As long as, I say it all the time, nobody loses an eye and nobody's feelings get hurt. As long as people are having a good time, or, you could be bored at the game table. That's not a crime, right? Damn that Frank, that son of a bitch. We were playing that game and I was bored. How dare he? How dare he? Flaming Heron's with us in chat. Says, Jeff likes made role-playing games, confirmed. No, I've actually, those are some of the kind of games that just I don't get. They don't compute with me. But once again, it's, not for me to decide. Tessie Trakey says the only thing worth making fun of people is for buying Fatal. Yes, I have heard stories. Yikes. On to our final news piece. Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory threat assessment Demons and Heretics is now making its way into stores. It's going to arrive early next month from our friends over at Cubicle 7 Games. I've got the skinny. Bring the forces of the ruinous powers to Warhammer 40K roleplay Wrath and Glory with this packed bestiary dedicated to those in service of the dark gods of chaos. Threat assessment Demons and Heretics presents a wide array of new and exciting challenges from the insidious cultists of the Dark Commune to terrible heretic Astartes. Within its bloodstained pages, you'll find ancient and powerful relics, mind-rending psychic powers, malevolent greater demons of the dark gods, and much more, including tools and advice to help craft your own nefarious cults in service to chaos. An expansive array of new threats for your games, powerful demons and followers of Korn, Nurgle, Slanesh, and Zinich. Iconic threats like Korn Berserkers and Slanesh Noise Marines. A comprehensive section dedicated to the Psychic Diabolus. Diabolus? I guess Diabolus is probably it. The dread powers employed by servants of the dark gods. Threat assessment, Demons and Heretics, is bursting with new threats and challenges for experienced GMs and players alike. GMs are going to find the expansive lore and abundance of new enemies great additions to their existing games or new adventures against the corrupting powers of chaos. Threat assessment, Demons and Heretics, is a must-have for anyone looking to learn about or bring the corrupting influence of the dark gods into their games of Warhammer 40K, Wrath and Glory. This 128-page hardcover will carry an MSRP of $39.99 when it arrives next month. Right now, you can grab the PDF over at Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99. Hopefully, we get a chance to see this too. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Sean O'Donnell is asking if which of the two role-playing games from Chaosium, I shouldn't say Chaosium, Cubicle 7, which of the two Warhammer 40K role-playing games is the most like Dark Heresy? Well, I got to be honest, I'm not overly familiar with Dark Heresy. I would say that Wrath and Glory is probably more along the lines of Rogue Trader. Not to say that it would be, exactly like it, because it's certainly not. But Imperium Maledictum is a particular sort of campaign, whereas Wrath and Glory, you can have a variety of different character types in it. So you could have conceivably Sisters of Mercy alongside Imperial Guard, alongside a Space Marine here or there, a Rogue Trader, all these different things. So, but Imperium Maledictum's pretty cool. Who was it? Kevin King just said, I'm hoping they don't abandon Imperium Maledictum. I guarantee they will not. Okay. I can't say guarantee it because I can't guarantee any game company won't suddenly up and, close shop or anything like that, right? I will say that I would expect going forward that we will see probably more released for Imperium Maledictum than we do see for Wrath and Glory, because you got to keep in mind, Wrath and Glory was not a Cubicle 7, I almost said entertainment. Well, at that time, it would have been Cubicle 7 Entertainment, but now they prefer to be referred to as Cubicle 7 Games. But back when Wrath and Glory came out, that was not through Cubicle 7. That was through Pegasus Spiel. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Ulysses Spiel. Pegasus Spiel does board games. But one thing led to another, and Games Workshop pulled it from them. And because Cubicle 7 did such a good job with Wifrip, they asked them if they would take over Wrath and Glory, which they have. But of course, Imperium Maledictum, that is a game that was designed in-house by the folks over at Cubicle 7. So I don't think they're going to abandon that anytime soon. Sean O'Donnell wonders how much of a bump they may have got from the success of Space Marine 2. Well, they did share I want to say it was for Imperium Maledictum. They did share a PDF that featured Space Marine 2, the three characters, I guess the three playable characters. I have to go and play Space Marine. I'm still messing around with Baldur's Gate 3. I actually had restarted my Baldur's Gate 3. And I don't know, about a month ago, because I don't have an opportunity to play it a ton because I'm usually working on stuff for the website and, for this, for the videos and that. But I finally just got into Act 2. So I am probably about, I don't know, three hours maybe into Act 2. So, but there's always video games that I'm like, oh man, I really want to play that. Just like we've got Civilization 7 coming out next month. And Elliot and I played Civ 6 online against each other. Never completed a game. But yeah, we did okay. Yeah, we were pretty neck and neck in that. So I had asked him if he's planning on picking up Civ 7 when it comes out. And he said, oh, yeah. He asked if I was. And I'm like, I love Civ. I've been playing Civ since it first came out. But do I really want to end up spending like $300 in the long run on the various different civilizations that they release as DLC? Because I got Civ 6 and all the content for Civ 6 for like $30. Kevin King says Civ's not fun anymore. Their sons kick his butt at it. I have taken a peek at Millennium, which is from Paradox. I always like Paradox stuff. And yes, I understand when Millennium first came out, or Millennia. I think it's a Millennia, not Millennium. When it first came out, it was like just about every Paradox game. It's got potential, but it's just not fully cooked. It's not baked. And then I heard now it's actually really good. So yes, I like civilization type games. I had considered taking a peek at Old World because that had a kind of cool thing going on. I don't know. Don't know. So tonight is another Cthulhuesday. And I am going to dive in and talk about Edge of Darkness, which is from the starter set. We're going to talk about that in just a bit. Did want to mention, if you missed it, I reviewed the Dungeons & Dragons 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide from Wizards of the Coast. This was something that I know none of you saw coming, but I had people, even in chat, we had gotten some folks who were asking, hey, Jeff, are you ever going to review the DM's guide? I was getting emails from people. I've gotten comments from people. So I thought, well, you know what? People are asking for the review. I will get it. I will review it. So I ordered it through Amazon, and thankfully, it came relatively unscathed, which is saying something. If you ever order books through Amazon, you know it is a real crapshoot. I mean, thankfully, I've never gotten any books that were like really trashed. But I mean, I've gotten some where they've got all the boxing or foxing that they call it at the edges of the cover and like up in here and stuff. Brand new books. It's usually when I'm buying them as a gift for someone. That's the best part. So anyway, so I shared the review and got a handful of people who were complete fucking assholes in their comments. And I'm like, really? Somebody. And usually I just let it go. Or I just hide them from the channel. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But somebody said, yeah, Jeff sold out for the monetization. And I'm like, okay, you got to be a real moron. Because it's like, for one, if I were concerned about money, because, I think everybody knows by now, I don't really make anything doing this. I really don't. I could probably have a part-time job at a gas station someplace at a Circle K or something, and that would pull in more than I make doing this stuff. And you also know that a lot of times, what I make or the donations I get from people, that's reinvested into this. And that was an example. So this was an example because people were asking for a review of this. So I bought it with money that was donated to the gaming gang. And I shared the video. So I had to laugh because this person's like, oh, yeah, you sold out. Somebody else said along the same lines. And it's sort of like, yeah, because let's review a book that came out, more than a month ago that other outlets had access to share coverage of, I'd say 2 months ago. Yeah, because I'm going to make so much out of that 3,000 views that the video ends up getting over time. Like, oh, for God's sake. I'm like, for crying out loud. There you go, Doom Columnist right there. I'm sure the 7 cents Jeff would make from that D&D review was just too enticing to resist. Yeah. Scenes by Omnic was with us. I guess they just popped in for a minute. Said, a-holes on both sides. Forget them. Yeah, there are. I mean, there are. I mean, there are people who are like, oh, yeah, they think I'm too hard on Wizards of the Coast. Just like in the review, I said, I'm separating the publisher from the publication. Because, some people out there think, oh, well, the political face that Wizards of the Coast shows the public is like, oh, it's an affront to humanity. As if they're breaking the law or something. And it's like, really? It's like, give me a break. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. You're not going to talk about all the shit that Wizards of the Coast does. It's like, maybe you should tune into one of the live shows because I've done it there. I'm not going to talk about it in a review of the book. I don't know. Doom Colonist says that's a generous guess. People really do need to educate themselves as to how much money folks make on these platforms before they start pontificating. The reality is the days of me seeing like 25,000 views on a D&D book review or D&D book video are gone. I'm lucky if I pull in 1,500 to 2,000. Now, I know the Dungeon Master's Guide video came out over the weekend, and it's around 2,000 right now. But you figure that I did a video, I think the highest number of views as far as videos go is for D&D books was like 25,000. And if I remember correctly, I think I earned about $32 off of those 25,000 views. So there you go. So there is that. So for people to be like, yeah, Jeff's selling out. No, I'm giving people what they ask for. That's it. And if you want the lowdown on the Dungeon Master's Guide, I liked it. I think it's actually really well done. I do like the Tales from the Valiant Game Master's Guide better, but I really do like this. And I didn't really do like a head-to-head comparison to the 2014 or the 5e Dungeon Master's Guide outside of saying that it's uh, the layout and the way it's presented is far more logical. It's got more flow to it than, say, the 5e DMG, which of course, compared to the original AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide is night and day, right? I mean, because as cool as the stuff in the original Dungeon Master's Guide is, it is all over the place. It's like, yikes. Sean O'Donnell says 25K equals $32. Ouch. Yeah, I mean, that's a reality. I mean, there's this misconception that, these content creators out there, they're just paying their bills on, 150,000 views. Fuck no, not even close. Not even close. Anyway, so just wanted to mention that. Anyway, so let's get back on track. So I was wrapping up the news a few minutes ago. And of course, I was mentioning Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, happen to be affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go drive through RPG or pop by Storytellers Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. In fact, as of today, you can pre-order the PDFs for Daggerheart. Remember we were talking about the most anticipated role-playing games of 2025? And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yes, I received 5% of those purchases. So those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do go a long way. It's helping keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Ooh, icy cold. And there are some folks out there who swing on by and make not small donations, such as this month, we have very nice and generous donations from Joshua Edwards, Will Burton, Toothless, Agile Monk, and good friend of the show, the Madman. Thank you very kindly to all of you out there who utilize those banner ads and or stop by paypal.me. So let me check something here. Something seems a little off. No, I think, yeah, okay. All right, okay. For some reason, my preview video got like choppy for a second. I was like, wait, I never see that. Let's take a peek. Tessie Trekkie says while they have no great desire to play 5.5, yeah, somebody else busted my chop saying, it's not a new edition. Stop making fun of Brittany. I think the Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide and Wizards of the Coast being all we want D&D to be family friendly and welcoming to everyone is at worst being counter driven. I understand the, appealing to everybody, family friendly. For one, I agree. I even said it in the review. I said, I agree with Wizards of the Coast and their attitude that everyone should be welcome to play. I am 100% behind that. And I'm sorry, but if you are a gamer out there and you feel that there are certain people who should not be included in our hobby, there's something wrong with you. I'm sorry. I got to just tell you that. If you feel that certain people should not be allowed to play our games, you got to screw loose. Now, I didn't say that they have to come and play at your table, because, of course, that is your fortress of solitude, right? That is your choice. You choose who gets to play at your table. I'm not saying anything about that, but come on. I mean, if you're sitting there like, oh, XYZ people, oh, they got no place in this hobby. Oh, fuck that. That's bullshit. Anyway, just saying. Kevin King says they've been running Tales of the Valiant in 5.5 over the last few months. Tales of the Valiant has had by far the better reception. Yes, I promise. I will have that video, why you should play Tales of the Valiant, before the end of the month. I have had Steamforged Games reach out and ask if I'm interested in sharing coverage of that Tales of the Valiant starter set that they have teamed up with Cobalt Press to release. So I will be sharing coverage of that as well. All right, so tonight is another Cthulhuesday, and I will be diving on into Edge of Darkness for Call of Cthulhu in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
How about it, kids? Are you giving us a fair break? We've tried to treat you fair and square, but unnecessary noises and disturbances drive away adults. And we need adultry to stay in business. You can cooperate and help us keep this theater quiet, or we'll be forced without further notice to evict all disturbance makers and to refuse them future admission to this theater. Now, don't make us do it. Let's give each other a fair break. Thanks, the management.
Oh, heck, my flying saucer's out of atomic fuel.
I'm even worse off. I'm out of Wilkins coffee.
Gee whiz.
Invaders from Mars. He saw them land from outer space. He saw them capture innocent people only to destroy. Father turned against son. People changed into strange, weird animals. A general of the army becomes a saboteur. Trusted police turned into arsonists. The boy's parents changed into killers.
But nobody's getting anywhere out there. Nobody can locate anything. Anybody. The Martians. We've got to stop them.
Invaders from Mars, capturing humans at will for their own sinister purposes, turning them into diabolical instruments of destruction. Invaders from Mars, weird, fantastic beings of a superintelligence, ruling a race of synthetic humans and pitting them against mankind's dream to conquer the universe.
Come on, step on it. Search every tunnel. We gotta find Ronaldo and the kid. When the colonel gives a signal, get back here on the double.
Yes. Invaders from Mars. I kind of jumped the gun on. I kind of skipped that. Back to the show. Womp womp. You know, funny thing is, I know I saw Invaders from Mars. I was probably early teens. And I remember little bits and pieces of it, and I did see the remake that Toby Hooper did. It's funny. I remember more about that than the original. And I have to laugh because it's like I think it's his stepdad, if I remember right, he's like, I think he's drunk and he's like, it's like, what the fuck is that? It's like, geez, kid, just move. The old man's not going anywhere. He's just, kid had plenty of like advanced notice. Now, I'm not condoning child abuse in any way, shape, or form. I'm just pointing out the kid should have been a little, faster on the trigger there. It's kind of a given that, guys, or is he smacking him because he's been taken over by an alien? See, like I said, I don't recall. Doom Colonist said Louise Fletcher leaping down the alien's throat in the remake had them in fits of laughter. Yeah. All righty. So, as I mentioned, tonight's another Cthulhuesday. And we are going to be discussing Edge of Darkness for Call of Cthulhu from our friends over at Chaosium Inc. It is part of the Call of Cthulhu starter set. That's right. It's all you need to enjoy horror role-playing. One of the finest starter sets on the market. What's the MSRP on this? Well, of course, the MSRP is old, so I've had this for a few years. $24.95. I don't know if it's still $24.95 or not, but any game master out there who's curious about Call of Cthulhu and running Call of Cthulhu, becoming a keeper, which of course is what the game master is called in Call of Cthulhu, by all means, this should be on your radar to pick up. It is excellent. So we're going to dive on into the third book, which contains our scenarios here. And we are going to talk about Edge of Darkness. So Edge of Darkness makes for an excellent introduction to Call of Cthulhu. In fact, all three of these adventures, which are contained in this starter set book, make for really good starting adventures. The first one is the Paper Chase, which I've always liked, but probably would not be the role-playing scenario that I would use to introduce Call of Cthulhu. Because while there are some Lovecraftian tinges to it, it's a little lighter than I would prefer to begin my investigators' careers with. So Edge of Darkness is rather Lovecraftian in most respects, especially the whole, when we were younger, we did something stupid and paying the price for it now. So, of course, we're going to discuss the adventure. I have run this adventure. I ran this when this was included in the old core books. In fact, I think it was the 4th edition book that this was in. Don't recall. But Edge of Darkness has been around as a Call of Cthulhu scenario for quite some time. It doesn't go all the way back to the beginning, but it has been around for decades. So the premise is it starts off and Rupert Merriweather has some sort of a connection with each of the investigators. And it's, of course, up to the investigator, or I should say player, and the keeper, what that connection might happen to be. Now, there are a couple of ways that are presented as hooks into this adventure. One of them being that the player characters are all members of this sort of organization that investigates the weird and unusual. I don't recommend going that direction. Personally, I think it's far too early in a campaign to have your player characters be part of some occult organization. I would prefer to start off this adventure with the player characters having some sort of tie to this elderly man who's in a hospital. And it can be all different things. So you don't necessarily have to have the investigators all know each other. So this is not a situation where you have to have a team already in place that's being brought on board to investigate something. So what happens in this is Rupert Merriweather reaches out to each of the investigators and asks them to meet him at the hospital that he's at. In fact, if I remember correctly, it's St. Mary's Teaching Hospital. And of course, it is in Arkham, Massachusetts. So, of course, if you're planning on having a Call of Cthulhu campaign, or at least having some of your Call of Cthulhu adventures take place in and around Arkham, this is a good place to start off with that. Interestingly enough, now I don't know if At the Mountains of Madness is still in print for Call of Cthulhu. Or, oh no, I'm sorry, it's Beyond the Mountains of Madness. At the Mountains of Madness is the novella. So Beyond the Mountains of Madness, I don't know if that's still in print. It is an excellent campaign. And the reason why I mention it is because the expedition is the Stark Merriweather expedition. So it's sort of like, you could conceivably tie Rupert Merriweather into being related to the Merriweather for the Stark Merriweather expedition to the Antarctic and Beyond the Mountains of Madness. So I kind of thought that was kind of a interesting little thing that you could do. I don't know if that was planned or not. Probably not. It's probably just the designer decided to use the name Merriweather. So the adventure begins with the player characters being summoned to the bedside of Rupert Merriweather in the hospital, and he's dying. And you do want, as a keeper, you do want to present this as, you go, doing your coughing and there is, when he dies, he's supposed to cough up a big spout of blood, and they don't say what he's dying from. They give you a few ideas, what you could make it. You could make it just, something relatively mundane, earthbound disease like cancer or something like that. Or if you want to make it, a little creepier, you could do that as well. But what I would do with the players is I would sort of foreshadow the spouting blood all over one of the player characters, just by having Mr. Merriweather coughing and kind of choking a little bit, and keeps taking a handkerchief to his face, and when he pulls the handkerchief away, there's blood on it, and then, because I guarantee you, your players, when he expires and blood all over one of them, I guarantee they will have kind of seen that coming. So, and sometimes it's fun for your players to sit there and be like, oh man, I knew that was going to happen. Because then they feel good about themselves, even if they don't say anything, even if they don't say, I bet you this is going to happen. It's always fun to have them be sitting there, feeling good about themselves because they saw something coming a mile away. And weirdly enough, as chilly as it is down here in the Duct Tape Studios, which is also, if you don't watch the show too often, what I also refer to as the Kingdom of the Spiders, there's actually a little spider crawling up onto the camera. So I'm hoping that it doesn't decide to crawl across the lens. But I did just see it crawl up, up a web. Anyway, so the investigators have been brought to the hospital, and Rupert Merriweather tells them that when he was a student at Miskatonic back in the I think it's 1870s, he and some friends formed an occult group, and they were sort of under the mentorship of this older occultist. And of course, Merriweather and his friends didn't exactly take this all too seriously. So they all pitched in, and they happened to buy this old farmhouse. And they were using the farmhouse for their occult studies and things like that. So what ended up happening is they actually summoned some creature to this farmhouse. And they thought that the reason why they didn't hear about the creature after they ran off was because of the various different glyphs and that they had carved into the doorways and windows and things like that, window sills, or at least the wood around the window, prevented it from escaping because they all fled, and they never went back. They never went back to see what had happened because they were all afraid to. And the reason why Merriweather is calling the investigators to his bedside is because he always thought that the glyphs and wards and things that they used only were keeping this creature bound to the house because someone was alive. And everyone else, someone was alive in the group that was there. Everyone else is deceased. And Merriweather's the last man standing. And of course, he's telling the player characters about this, and he wants the player characters to deal with this. Yeah. Isn't that nice? It's like, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, buddy. You're gonna leave us to clean up your mess, huh? But yeah, Merriweather's afraid that when he dies, that is going to release the creature from this farmhouse. So, of course, obviously enough, as I just mentioned, Merriweather will die in front of he doesn't necessarily have to die in front of the player characters, but he does, start coughing up, and he can't continue, and he, spurts up blood all over one of the player characters. So of course they have to make a sanity check and all that. So as a keeper, you want to try to play up the sickness, play up the weirdness of the whole situation. You could, try to play off Merriweather as, maybe being on the edge of sanity, that maybe he's not completely sane, something along those lines. So he has a box for the players that he will give them prior to him having his attack that forces the players out of his room as nurses and doctor come in and, basically say, all right, you're in our way, you got to go. And then Merriweather will die. So He will be dead before the players leave Arkham. So they received this box, and the box has some journal entries, or it's got a journal in it. It's also got a box, almost like a little sarcophagus that has Egyptian hieroglyphics that are carved on it on the outside of it. And then the inside of it actually has other strange markings on it that are not of any known language, at least probably to the investigators. So the reality is it's a red herring. So that is actually there to kind of further on more adventures for the player characters than actually having anything to do with this adventure here. I will say this is an adventure that has a lot of reading for the player characters. And thankfully, these handouts in cursive are very easy to read. One thing that I have mentioned in the past is sometimes we get these Call of Cthulhu adventures where we get the player handouts and it's very difficult to read them. And yes, I can read cursive because I grew up writing cursive. I know a lot of younger people out there just find it nearly impossible to read cursive. But sometimes some of the cursive we get with Chaosium Inc. is really hard for even myself to make out. And sometimes we don't get what it says, like in regular text. Like a lot of times in older Call of Cthulhu adventures, we get handouts, but also in the adventure, it'd say, oh, okay, so this is what that handout says. This is what that handout says. We don't tend to see that as often anymore, which is fine as long as you can read the handouts. So I am mentioning that it is a plus, thumbs up here, as far as the handouts, because they are easily legible. You can read them very easily. So at this point in time, player characters have some options available to them. They can kind of try to see if they can learn a little bit more about about Rupert Merriweather. They also have received the deed to the farmhouse that had been purchased for the occult gatherings. So we've got that. And then, of course, we've got the journal or journal entries and that little sarcophagus that is just kind of a red herring. W. Forge mentions that Beyond the Mountains of Madness is still for sale at Chaosium for $49.99. I got to be honest, I don't think that's for 7th edition, though. I don't think they've like updated it for the latest edition of Call of Cthulhu. Because the reality is, if they have, they never made a big deal about it, because Beyond the Mountains of Madness is an excellent campaign. It is, in my opinion, now granted, it's not up there with Massive Nyarlathotep, but I honestly like Beyond the Mountains of Madness better than Horror on the Orient Express. I will say that. Roy Goodman's with us in chat. Welcome aboard, Roy. Good to see you. All right, so the player characters can take the opportunity to try to learn a little bit more about some of the other people who were part of this group, including the leader, the mentor, and his name is Marion Allen. In fact, they can do a little bit of research. They see that Merriweather has a news clipping from a newspaper in New Orleans talking about the death of Marion Allen, the vicious murder of Marion Allen. Once again, these are still kind of a little red herring-ish. These are providing openings and opportunities for keepers to expand out from this as just a jumping off point for the adventuring careers of their player characters. Gleeman RX says that the website says the Beyond the Mountains of Madness is for 5th edition Call of Cthulhu. It's sad they haven't gotten around to doing an update for 2024-25. Maybe that's on the horizon. Next time I do an interview with somebody from Chaosium Inc, I will ask. So, like I said, the player characters have an opportunity to look into some more information if they want. The reality is, though, they may just want to head to this farmhouse, which is located in Ross's Corners. And reason being, Merriweather has told him that, as far as he understands, or his belief is, that the reason why this monster hasn't, terrorized, the world is because that as long as someone was alive who was there when it was summoned, those wards are still in effect. The reality is it's not really the case, but still your investigators might think that is the case. And now that Merriweather's dead, nothing's going to stop this creature or whatever the hell this thing is from escaping and, terrorizing people, killing people. They don't know. They don't know what it does. So it's very possible that if your players are like my gang, they will probably jump right to going to the farmhouse. So we get some information about Ross's Corners. It's just a little village that's nearby the farmhouse. And if they talk to some of the NPCs there, number one, they will be looked upon with suspicion. And people will be kind of tight-lipped around them because actually a farmer's wife has disappeared. Hey, wonder where you're going to find her, huh? So the farmers that they're not too happy to see outsiders and strangers because they think, well, maybe these people had something to do with it. So there is kind of a combination general store post office that they can talk to an NPC there to learn a little bit about the lay of the land, as well as where exactly is this farmhouse that they've got the deed to. So they will get to the farmhouse, and if they take a look around before going inside, there's a possibility that they will find a dead raccoon. And they say that raccoon's like 30 pounds. It's a 30-pound raccoon. Man, that is one big ass raccoon. So even though it's not really kind of laid out that way in the adventure, because most raccoons are like, 10 to 20 pounds. A huge raccoon weighs 20 pounds. Just imagine 30 pounds of raccoon. So as a keeper, I would kind of play that up. Like, this thing is like abnormally large, even though it's natural. There's no color out of space or anything like that. But I would kind of throw a little wrinkle in where your player characters were like, the hell's that? And they will find that the raccoon's chest has been torn open, its ribs have been ripped apart, and its heart is gone. So, Gleeman RX ahead, Google that. Largest recorded wild raccoon weighed 63 pounds and measured 55 inches in total length. Holy cow. That is the color out of space. Mutating it. So anyway, so they can find that. And then they can also find the missing farmer's wife in the same condition, dead, with a hole in her chest where her ribs and basically her chest cavity has been torn open and her heart is removed as well. So it kind of leaves the player characters in kind of a pickle, because are they going to report that they found this missing woman? Because she's outside. She's not in the farmhouse. They haven't even, maybe they haven't even gone in the farmhouse yet. But are they going to report that to the authorities? Because that's going to throw a wrench into them possibly dealing with the creature that's been, stuck in this farmhouse for decades. So kind of interesting. I will tell you, when I ran this, my players did not go to the authorities. They figured they would wait until they were finished and then they would report it, which, actually kind of makes some sense. So there's a few other little minor things that the player characters can find as they look around the farmhouse. The farmhouse, as the keeper, you really want to present this farmhouse as very creepy, very old. It's on the verge of really being dilapidated. It's not quite there yet. So windows are broken. Not every window, but many of the windows are broken. Whatever glass still remains is just, it looks as if it's frosted glass because of so much accumulated dirt on the windows. There is an attic in the farmhouse, and I will tell you right now, that's where the creature resides, is up in the attic. There are no windows to the attic. So depending on how the keeper would describe this farmhouse, you don't necessarily want to kind of zoom in on, oh, well, okay, so you see it's a ground level and looks like an attic area up there. No windows in the attic, which is kind of going to be like, oh, okay, well, hey, I'm just letting you know up front, something up in the attic, because there ain't no windows looking in on that attic. I would shy away from describing the house like that. I would mention there's probably an attic and that the windows on the ground floor, there's only windows on the ground floor and they're all broken, and go from there, it looks like whatever glass remains is real dirty. It's almost like frosted, but don't put a lot of emphasis as they're looking at the outside of the house in the attic. Because like I said, if you describe the attic, like say, oh, there's an attic up there, there's no windows, right away, your players are going to be like, oh, okay, so now we know where the monster's at. So player characters can go on into the house. The house isn't very exciting. There's really not much there. But when they go inside, they can tell that somebody has been staying there, because there's a blanket, there's a can of pork and beans that's sitting there that's been eaten, and there's still the juice, gravy, whatever it's considered, right? So so you can tell there's like a tin fork in the can. So somebody has been staying in the farmhouse. They will also see that there is a trapdoor to the attic above, and that there's also a cellar below. And down in the cellar is a hobo, Red Jake, who, it's his stuff that's upstairs. So there's kind of like a hobo's pack that's got, various different items just sitting there, like unfolded onto the table, so that the player characters can glean that, okay, yeah, so somebody's been staying in the farmhouse and it's probably a hobo. So the hobo was attacked by the monster the previous night, but he luckily survived because the monster became aware of the farmer's wife and went and murdered her. And the hobo was able to get down into the cellar, which happens to have the various different glyphs and wards on it to prevent the monster from getting down there. Of course, the hobo is his sanity is shaky. He's actually temporarily insane, but the player characters can calm him down into, telling them what happened. They have to be careful though, because he'll attack whoever comes down there into the cellar because he's afraid and he's temporarily insane. One thing that I thought was kind of odd that I would probably toss in if I were running this today is there's really no explanation. Why is the farmer's wife in the vicinity of this old abandoned farmhouse where she was murdered? Because she was, it's not like she was brought back to be dropped off outside the house. So I would probably play it off that her and, someone were having an affair and they were using the farmhouse as their illicit location or something like that. Because otherwise it's sort of like, okay, so she's just walking by this farmhouse. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So it's like, okay. W4Jazz, what's the better value? Call of Cthulhu 2-inch classic box set or the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition Investigators and Keepers rule books? Well, that is interesting. If you're looking to play classic Call of Cthulhu, then yes, I would say the 2-inch box should work really well. But you do have to keep in mind that some of the content that's in the 2-inch classic box set is certainly not of the caliber that we would expect from today. So some of the adventures are very, I don't want to say like Dungeons and Dragons-ish, but they are presented more as fighting. The reason why Call of Cthulhu has the reputation of, with the total party kills and things like that is because of classic Cthulhu, where some of the, and I'm not one for balance in adventures either, right? And especially Call of Cthulhu, there are adventures that should end in either no-win situations or having to choose the best of all bad options, right? I gotta say, maybe you go with the Investigator's Guide, because keep in mind, the Keeper's rule book, the Keeper's Guide is not required. Should you have it as a keeper? Yes, I honestly do believe it. Another option out there is pick up the starter set. Pick up the starter set, see what you think of it, because even a lot of the adventures that get released, like, we just looked at one of them when we were tackling last week's adventure, Doorways to Darkness. Those are beginner adventures. All you need is the starter set. You don't need to have the Investigator's Handbook. You don't obviously need to have the Keeper's book either. I would say if you've never run Call of Cthulhu, pick up the starter set and even, pick it up in PDF if you want. Save yourself a little more money that way. Because I think it's all of maybe $9.99 in PDF over at DriveThruRPG. I mean, that's a possibility. Kevin King is talking about Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, which has about twice the playable material as the 7E box set. Yeah, but if you're looking at the price of the 7E box set, The starter set is $24.95. The 2-inch classic box set is what, $100? So quite a bit different. But as Gleeman RX points out, you can check out my videos. Cold War Tuesday mentions for them it's the 2-inch box. Yeah, because the reality is that 2-inch box is just as applicable to play today as it was back when it came out 40 plus years ago. So keep that in mind. And the funny thing is, yes, there have been changes in the editions of Call of Cthulhu, but the reality is, mechanically at its core, it's really the same game. Really is. Now, I pointed out before, I am not necessarily a big fan of the, hard and extreme where you got to, okay, this percentage of their skill and blah, blah, blah. No, I still, I'll be honest, I still stick to the, okay, well, I make adjustments to their percentile chance. So if something is really difficult, it'll be like -20 or something, as opposed to, okay, well, it's 1/5 of their skill. So if they, oh, well, you got a skill of 20, okay. So just me. Cold War Tuesday said, if only they had the second edition Masks reprint. I think you can buy that in PDF, though. I thought that was out. Okay, so back to the adventure here. And we're actually pretty close to wrapping up. So down in that cellar is also a trunk, which Mary and Alan actually put together. And it's got the ritual that the members of the occult group had to chant in order to summon the creature. And there's instructions there on how to reverse that with a different ritual. And there is also the, I always forget the name of it, powder of Ibn Ghazi, which makes the invisible visible, because it turns out that this creature, this lurker, is effectively invisible. So it's nearly invisible. It's barely seen. So of course, that makes life very difficult. So in order to damage it, you would have to throw some of the dust of Ibn Ghazi on the lurker in order to see it for a few seconds and do damage to it with just, physical weapons or, guns and stuff like that. So the reality is, battling this creature is not going to be in, the cards for the player characters. Doing the ritual will. And that's where most of the action is going to take place in this adventure, is when the investigators attempt to begin the ritual. Because the thing is, this creature can't really get into the first floor of this house. And it's because of the wards that are on the doorways and the windows and stuff like that. Now, he can attack the investigators outside. He can attack them up in the attic, but he can't go into the first floor and he can't go into the cellar. So it's, that's why he couldn't go and kill the hobo. So I should point out, if the player characters let the hobo go on his way, the lurker will kill him that night. So the lurker has some weird ass powers here. So he can resurrect, or he can control things that he's killed. So supposedly he leaves some sort of a residue behind, which allows him to reanimate things that he's killed. And if the player characters go up into the attic when he's not there, they will find all these small animals that he has killed and brought back, and he eats their hearts. That's what he does. So Kevin King says that they were the keeper. The players escaped a total party kill on the basis of a single roll that went their way at the end. Yeah, sometimes that's the case. I mean, sometimes that's really the case with a Call of Cthulhu adventure. Gloyman RX says they played the starter set solo adventure yesterday. It was absolutely fantastic. It's like Chaosium took the best of other companies' starter sets to produce this, in their opinion. Reality is, Chaosium had one of the first starter sets out there. So the Call of Cthulhu starter set has been out for quite some time. It's been out for at least 5 years, I believe. So the funny thing is, many of these companies have actually taken a cue from Chaosium for their starter sets and not vice versa. So anyway, so he can reanimate the dead that he's killed. He can also like spurt acid at the players. So player characters, I should say, not the players. So the reality is what the creature is going to do is it's going to try to disrupt the ritual. And got to keep in mind, this is not some mindless killer. This is a cunning, intelligent monster who can speak. So you might want to freak your players out by way of that. So what happens is the players have to complete this ritual that should take between an hour and 2 hours in order to banish this thing, the lurker. And while they're trying to do that, the lurker is going to do everything they can in order to stop them. So it's going to attempt to have the farmer's wife, if the investigators did not report her death to the authorities and she's still outside, it's going to reanimate her. He'll reanimate Red Jake. And what they're going to try to do is, because those wards prevent them from coming inside, they're going to try to tear the wood away from the doorways and the windows so that the ward is gone and then they can get in. And then the lurker can also animate the dead animals. So we get some stats for that raccoon, that 30-pound raccoon, and even a small brown bear that is nearby that the lurker has killed. Because the reality is, even though Merriweather thought that the wards protected them from the thing getting out, it has gotten out because it was up in the attic. And they didn't have any wards in the attic to prevent it from leaving. So what you're going to do is you're going to ratchet up the suspense as the players are looking for their characters to finish up this ritual. So I would say there's probably 3 or 4 different things that you might want to try to do. About 5 minutes before the ritual is completed, the creature is actually going to be stuck inside the pentagram, whatever you want to consider it, that the player characters have placed on the floor. And it's going to speak to the investigators. They're going to try to bargain its way out of being transported back to whatever dimension it comes from. The reason why it stayed in the farmhouse is because it's been convenient. And yes, I know in Call of Cthulhu Adventures, a lot of times burning things to the ground is the option that the player characters take. Burning the farmhouse to the ground won't do anything except force the lurker out closer to, say, like the small village, right? Because he's not trapped in the farmhouse. He just stays in the farmhouse because kind of it's like, well, that's where his home is. That's it. So the whole concept of him trying to wheel and deal with the player characters is kind of interesting too, because it's almost like a genie, right? Well, I'll promise you this if you'll just let me go. And the player characters conceivably can do that. So he can promise them like arcane knowledge, which in game terms will actually give them points in the Cthulhu mythos, up to 5 points. He could offer to translate something for the player characters. Now, granted, keep in mind, if you're using this as a starting adventure, probably not going to be something that your player characters would jump at, because they probably don't have anything outside of that sarcophagus that would need to be translated. And the hieroglyphics on the outside can be translated. It's the markings, the language that's in the inside of the cover that's supposed to be like from the ancient island of Mu, which once again is just a red herring. So don't know if your players are going to jump for that whole, okay, let's make a deal, but it is a possibility. It is a possibility. But of course, the player characters decide that they are not going to go in that direction. They continued to finish up the ritual, then they'll end up being able to banish this thing back to wherever the hell it came from. Gleeman RX says, I feel like players in these Cthulhu adventures get the bad ending most of the time. All depends. It all depends. I would say if you've got players who are familiar with Call of Cthulhu and they've played it and they kind of understand the underlying kind of themes of Call of Cthulhu, even if they get the bad ending, they'll still enjoy themselves. So there is the whole point of like player character sacrifice to save everybody, that it can be very rewarding for players. And of course, you always want to make sure that your players do understand that Call of Cthulhu can have a high lethality as far as adventures and things like that. So, but I mean, if you, as a keeper, I try to play straight with my gang. I don't go out of my way to make things harder on them or anything like that. Gleeman RX says, how do you survive a cemetery full of zombies? Run as fast as you can. And of course, I don't even know if you're going to survive it that way. But that would be, you know, the thought process for me would be to run like hell. But it's also important to keep in mind that as a player for Call of Cthulhu, things are a lot different than any other role-playing game out there, unless it's, say, a Lovecraftian horror role-playing game. So your players need to understand, if you're running Call of Cthulhu, you want to make sure before you get started, when they're new to everything, that they understand this is not Dungeons and Dragons. This is not a role-playing game where things are balanced out. This is not a role-playing game where it's like, oh, look, it's Satan. Well, let's go, Satan. Bring it on, because I'm of a certain experience level and they wouldn't allow you to show up in this game to do battle with me unless, you know, there was some chance of me being able to defeat you, because it's balanced that way. No. Kevin King points out, Ren, the one with the cemetery full of ghoul tunnels, that would be the paper chase, I do believe. Players figured out the score, ran like hell. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's one of the big keys to Call of Cthulhu and players enjoying Call of Cthulhu, is placing them in the mindset that their characters are just everyday people. Even as they start to learn the arcane arts, and like, even if they've got a player character that knows a spell or maybe two spells. They're still just a human being who is just as squishy as everybody else. And knowing magic isn't necessarily a great thing because of the ties into sanity that magic has in Call of Cthulhu, which is something I've always liked about it. Is that, you know, as you learn these various things about the mythos, and maybe you discover a spell, which normally in a Call of Cthulhu adventure, when a player character learns a spell, at least myself as a keeper, I make sure that they are not exactly positive what the hell it does, that they've got an idea of what it might do, but we're not talking about, oh yeah, well, this is Melf's acid arrow. Say it's got a range of this, and it's got a like area of effect of this size. No, none of that. None of that. Craig McBriarty, maybe that's it, McBriarty, is with us. I believe this is first time visit for Craig in chat. Welcome aboard. Hopefully I did not butcher your name too badly. But yeah, that's how I run Call of Cthulhu. You know, maybe one of these nights we'll do an episode where I'll just talk about some of my tips for Call of Cthulhu as far as running Call of Cthulhu for people who've never played it and who may not really be familiar with H.P. Lovecraft's works. So, because with a lot of horror role-playing games, there is still that concept of, oh, the players are heroic and, oh, bring it on, evil, which is fine. I have no issue with that, but that's just not how Call of Cthulhu is done. So the best Call of Cthulhu adventures have an opportunity for the characters to survive, obviously, but it's not a cakewalk for them either. It's like, Massive Nyarlathotep. That is a super campaign. Love that campaign. Take you years to play through it all. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is absolutely no way that every investigator who starts that campaign is going to make it to the end. And if they do, that keeper was taking it way too easy on them. But still, even in the most kind of one-sided scenarios for Call of Cthulhu, there are ways to avoid a total party kill. Just, gotta play it smart, and you gotta be willing to run like hell. Just like sometimes, like say there's some the monster in the cave kind of thing, where it's like, well, if you go to try to kill the monster in the cave, lots of luck with that, because that ain't going to happen. So sometimes the best situation for the player characters would be to blow up the entrance to the cave and trap that thing in the cave. Did they kill it? No. Had they effectively defeated it? Well, for a while, hopefully. So Gleeman RX says, they for one would appreciate a Tips of Cthulhu episode if I decide to do one. I would look to do that in February, because we are doing the Tuesday nights where they are Cthulhuesday nights. So I don't want to get a little too much Call of Cthulhu out there. I don't want you to start thinking, oh, okay, so this is now a Call of Cthulhu channel. Okay, I get it. I get it. All right. Anyway, so Edge of Darkness, fun starter adventure. It's been designed with various different red herrings to allow for a keeper to kind of dangle those out there to kind of lead into other adventures for their group. So I actually like that quite a bit, because a lot of times beginning adventures for role-playing games and be very honest, for a lot of Call of Cthulhu starter adventures, it's pretty cut and dry where it's like, okay, so here's the situation. You dealt with that. Ta-da, the end. It doesn't open doors to other adventures where this sort of does, even though it's whatever the keeper wants it to be. Plus, like as an example, we talked about Dead Man Stomp. That was our first Cthulhuesday. It's even mentioned in the starter set booklet that the player characters, you could lead them to New York trying to translate what's on the bottom of that box, the sarcophagus top, even though they're not going to find anything out. That just puts them in that situation, almost like, Scooby-Doo, right? Well, we just happen to be driving the mystery machine, and hey, what's going on here? That's how red herrings work. They're to get people to move along to something else. That's all it is. Or, I mentioned it before that I'm not necessarily a fan of red herrings. But in a situation where it's actually leading into another adventure, I'm fine. I'm okay with that. If it's, oh, well, you've been investigating all these things and, oh, you found out that it was just the neighbor's cat. Okay. Players don't tend to like those kind of red herrings. All right. That is it for this time out. Tomorrow night's topic, I don't know. I honestly do not have a clue. On one hand, part of me wants to talk about how the death of geek culture is going to be fandom itself murdering it. But then again, that's kind of negative. I don't really. So it'll be about something. Like I said, I don't know what just yet. Maybe I'll kind of look into what's going on with the sale of Alliance. Maybe see what people are thinking as far as what kind of effect that might have on the hobby. I myself, I didn't really think it's going to have any effect. I think the issue with Diamond Distributor and small comic publishers is going to be a huge deal, especially if Diamond goes under. But I don't think the sale of Alliance really has anything going on. All right. Craig says, interesting to rate role-playing games on their fatality likelihood. Yeah, that is kind of interesting. I would think a lot of people would rank Call of Cthulhu as pretty much, one of the highest. I mean, I know there are some role-playing games out there where your characters are doomed to start with. So the end of the campaign is the end of them. So I would say that those are role-playing games where the lethality rate is 100%. So Semper Buffo, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for popping on in to hang out with us tonight. In fact, thank you to all of you out there. That is it for this time out. If you were watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, an even bigger thank you, because you're keeping each other company while I'm kind of babbling on about, how I run an adventure or whatever, talk about the news and stuff like that. So it is much appreciated. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very kindly for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,100 videos on the channel. Much obliged. And of course, if you like the video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. And if you could, please appease the YouTube algorithm gods by leaving a comment on the video also. And give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. It'll also inform you when I share other videos, such as my review of the Dungeons and Dragons 2025 Dungeon Master's Guide, which I am giving away a copy of. So give the video a watch. I will tell you how to get into the running, and I am going to announce the winner on right here on the live show, January 30th. So by all means, check that out. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is. I will be back tomorrow. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.